Hey everyone, my name is Sarah, and as Madison said, I'll be taking us through the nutrition lesson we have planned for you all today. Looking back at our agenda, we can see that this is second up on the list today, and our lesson is entitled Dips Around the World. So we will begin with our lesson now. As we learned last week in our lesson on international breakfast foods, every culture has its own way of cooking and eating healthy. When meeting new people or traveling, you may find that your diet may not be similar to someone from a different country. This is a result of popular styles of eating that vary depending on where you are. Today, we'll be looking at dips around the world. While these dips do not necessarily represent their country, they show a common dish of that country. You may be wondering, why did they choose dips out of all things they could have chosen? Does anyone want to raise their hand and answer? They're versatile. Yeah, dips are definitely versatile. With a few ingredients, you can whip up something super flavorful, add spices, herbs, take them in any different direction you want to. Another one? So you said that we already did breakfast last week, and this was our best idea. We did do breakfast last week. Thank you for pointing that out, and thank you for sharing that. Actually, we put a lot of thought into our lesson plans, and we thought this would be a lot of fun for everyone because there are a lot of different international dips. But thank you again for sharing. Another one? Okay. You can share dips. This is so true. This was one of our main reasons. We thought food is something that should bring people together, and dips are always brought to, potlucks and parties, and you usually make them for friends and family. I mean, unless you're super hungry, you want to eat all of what you make for yourself, which there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, they're great for sharing, and that's really what we thought we would highlight today. Okay, moving on. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Let's show what we wrote down. So basically, we just said everything you said, but they bring people together. They are unique in every culture, and they're fun to eat. Simple as that. No utensils. Okay, next slide. When eaten in moderation alongside a balanced diet, dips can be a fun way to make sure you're getting all the food groups. As we go through the slides, you'll see that we're highlighting key nutritional factors of each dip mentioned. Take a second and imagine what it would be like if we didn't have sauces, condiments, and other forms of dips. So I don't know about you guys, but I think the world would be a very sad and bland place without them. Okay, so throughout the rest of the lesson, I'll be referencing food groups. So just a quick refresher, and in case you're not familiar, this is the current USDA guidelines for the ratio of food groups that you should have in your diet on a daily basis. It's called MyPlate, as you can see down here. So as you see here, we have fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. You'll notice that throughout the slideshow and in dishes in your own life, the food groups don't have to be separated like this, or even on a plate. This is just a guiding tool, but not the ultimate representation of what it needs to look like in your life. Of course, you see dairies in a cup right here, but multiple times throughout your day, or whenever you're eating, you might have dairy in another form that's not in a cup. And sometimes protein can overlap in dairy, grains, and vegetables. So it's important to remember that MyPlate is a suggestion and a guiding tool, but there are some, loopholes, if you will. So I tried to keep that brief for those of you who are already familiar with it, but I wanted to refresh, and for those of you who aren't familiar with it, feel free to come talk to me after class, and I'll be, referencing the food groups throughout the different dips just so we can highlight key nutritional factors of each dip. Is everyone clear on that? Okay, so first up is Greece. Greek tzatziki is a yogurt-based dip with some bright ingredients like lemon juice, cucumber, dill, and olive oil. People usually eat it with pita, meat, or vegetables. Let's do a quick MyPlate check to make sure everyone's got that locked down. So after I just mentioned those few ingredients, does anyone want to name some of the food groups that those are in? Anyone? Okay, we have a taker. Fruits and vegetables. Yes, I was hoping someone would say that. Cucumber, would be in the vegetable group. I mean, there are some debates whether things with seeds are technically fruits, but for now we'll just say it's a vegetable. And the lemon juice would go in the fruit category. And anyone else? Okay. Dairy. Great job. So as you'll notice with the difference between this and my plate is the dairy's a yogurt in a bowl and not in a cup. So see how it doesn't always work out like the representation. But yes, this would fall into the dairy group as well because of the yogurt. Another question? Okay. So you said, would olive oil be a vegetable? That's a really good question. So there's no category for fats or lipids, so we're just going to remember that we should eat those healthy fats in moderation along with our balanced diet. You guys rocked that pop quiz I threw at you, so we're going to keep going with the rest of the dips, and I promise I won't do any more of those check-ins. A popular Lebanese and Levantine dip is baba ganoush. The key ingredients here are eggplant, garlic, lemon juice, and tahini. Like tzatziki, baba ganoush is typically enjoyed with meat, vegetables, and pita bread. So I mentioned tahini. Tahini is a paste made from toasted sesame seeds. And since sesame seeds fall into the nut and seed category, they don't really fall into any my plate category, but we have fruits and vegetables with the eggplant and lemon. So those are our food groups for this dip. Has anyone here tried baba ganoush? I have, and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to know if anyone else had. I see some hands. Okay, cool. I think it's really good with warm pita. Okay, next slide. Next up, we have a popular Mexican salsa called pico de gallo. And pico de gallo in Spanish is rooster's beak. And I looked up a couple explanations online for why that is, and there were multiple explanations, so if you want to do some more research into that, I encourage you to do so. I don't want to give you the wrong one. So the key ingredients here are onion, tomatoes, cilantro, and jalapenos. Due to the juicy and fresh nature of this dip, it is sometimes called salsa fresca. As you can see by all the bright colors there, it's a really fresh dip. So once again, in moderation, this is a great addition to your fruit and vegetable group intake. This slide here shows chimichurri, which is a staple in Argentinian cuisine. It can be a marinade or a dip for vegetables and meats. Unlike our last dips, this is more of an oil-based dip with herbs and spices. The key ingredients here are parsley, red wine vinegar, crushed red pepper, and garlic. Since spices, herbs, and fats do not fall into the food groups, when eating this dip, you can think about what you're going to dip it with, or maybe the meat that you would eat it with, rather than the dip itself, since it's not in any of the food groups. From India, we have chutney. The type of chutney you eat depends on the region of India that the cuisine is from. So this means it can be more like a jam or prepared more like a sauce, depending on the region. They can be eaten with naan bread, meat, fried foods, or really anything you want to add flavor to. The key ingredient here, it depends on the chutney as well. So for sweet chutneys, it includes fruit, sugars, vinegar, and spices. For a green chutney, it would be mint, cilantro, peanuts, and serrano pepper. And chutneys, like dips in general, are extremely versatile, so the food groups vary for each one, so I'm not going to point out specific ones since the flavor profile could be completely different. Has anyone here ever tried chutney? I personally have had a few because I tend to bring them out together at Indian restaurants that I have been to, and I really enjoyed it with the naan bread. Has anyone else? You too? Thanks for sharing. Have you had one? A tamarind chutney. That sounds delicious. Another? Okay, yeah. You want to get going soon? Can we just cook? Okay, once again, thank you for sharing. We are going to move on in the next couple of minutes, so just sit tight, or if you need to go outside real quick, please do so. Moving on to our next slide, we have Switzerland, which is typically known for good chocolate and cheese, so it's not a surprise that one of their popular dips is fondue. Fondue is usually enjoyed with cubes of bread or vegetables. There's a whole nother set of fondue, broth fondue for meats, so we stuck to the cheese type today. People often think it's French because the word fondue comes from the French language, but the type of fondue you make, French or Swiss, depends on the cheese you use. And today we're doing Swiss fondue. So the key ingredients in a Swiss fondue are Swiss cheese of any kind. So not necessarily Swiss cheese, but a type of cheese that happens to be from Switzerland. A garlic clove or two, white wine, and spices. The alcohol that you put in the fondue helps with the melty consistency, and it makes the cheese less stringy when you lift it up from the pot. The food groups that you will notice here is just dairy, and you pair it with bread and vegetables. So the food groups would be grains, vegetables, and even fruits if you added, apples or pears to the cheese. And finally, our last tip of the day is the country we are in, the United States. For the popular American dip, we chose spinach and artichoke dip because not only is it a classic, it emphasizes the quote-unquote American way of eating. So spinach and artichoke dip is usually eaten with crackers, tortilla chips, bread, vegetables, pita, and probably has been put on a lot more things than, is common. So the key ingredients here are spinach, artichokes, cream cheese, and sour cream. Compared to the other dips we mentioned today, it's a lot higher in fat due to the processed dairy ingredients. So although there are some vegetables in the dip, like the spinach and artichokes, this dip overall would be one that we would encourage you to eat in moderation, and it's mostly in the dairy group. With dips like these, it's important to listen to your body because it can be really tasty, but you can start to feel sick after a while from all the cheese inside it. So that's all for me today. I hope you had fun learning about dips from around the world and are already thinking about bringing these to maybe a party or just to make them for friends, family, or even for yourself. No judgment. So next up, Megan's going to take you through hand washing and then through the first cooking demonstration we have for you today. Thanks, everyone.